I wanted to start with it's dominating the headlines again at the moment. There's talk of a quick fire sale of players at Everton, the likes of Branthwaite. I think it's pronounced Branthwaite, the centre back. There's talk that they may have to sell 2 or 3 players, or at least loan them out now with obligations to buy. They're looking like they're going to get an additional 6 to 10 point deduction. Nottingham Forest could be getting a deduction, and on top of that, there's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration towards the Man Cities and the Chelseas. It's been trending now for 27 hours, but City, and the words Chelsea and City online, because they're facing allegations and, or in City's case, been charged with cheating the system, and yet there's still no punishment that's been handed down to them. And a lot of people feel like the smaller clubs are being punished more so than the big teams. I'll go to LB first on this. What was your take initially on seeing Everton in trouble again and Forest facing a big points deduction?
Well, I don't think it comes as much as a surprise, because obviously the way that the rules are over a 3-year period, if you're in breach of the rules 1 year, there's a good chance that you're going to be running pretty close the following year, unless you made a load of sales or something drops off, you know what I mean, to balance that extra year. So, yeah, it doesn't come as much of a surprise. If you was an Everton fan, obviously they're all fuming about the Premier League, but you're probably going to have to look at your owners and the people that are running your club, and you've got to look at them and say, what have you got us into here? Because ultimately, the rules are there. You got to follow the rules. And at the end of the day, if your owners have managed your club in a way that have put you in danger of potentially getting relegated because of obviously the point deductions, you got to look at them and have some anger there. Now, people will, of course, look at the Premier League and go, well, what about Man City? As you just said, City have been trending for 27 hours. The Man City case is a fundamentally different case. And I don't think this is being, and this is where I think actually that, YouTube channels are doing a bit of a better job than actual mainstream media, Terry, because the mainstream media, I don't think, are making it clear to people exactly that Cities is a different. Cities haven't necessarily been charged with FFP. We've been charged with basically fraudulent reporting of our accounts over a number of years. That's different. That's also going to take a longer time to solve. You've also got to accept that Everton, in the last case, accepted they were guilty. Manchester City are denying guilt, and therefore that's going to take longer. This is all pretty straightforward stuff to understand, really. But I don't think the mainstream media, Terry, is doing a good enough job to explain that to people. Yeah, and I think they're just they're going along with it because they want to rile everyone up. If City are guilty, City will get the book thrown at them. We all know that. Yeah, people will want to sit here and say, no, they won't. They're an elite club. They're a big club. They'll be fine. No, they won't. If City have fraudulently misrepresented their accounts over 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is, they're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. That's just a fact. But it's going to take longer. Now, we heard this morning, news is broken from Richard Masters, Premier League, saying that a date has been set for basically this trial to be heard. It could take a while. Why? Because City are going to rigorously defend themselves. Of course they are. This is a serious accusation. And the Premier League are going to put forward their case. And at the end, we'll find out whether or not they think we're innocent or guilty. But I understand why people get frustrated, because obviously the City one's been going on for a long time. But you've got to understand, City is saying we're not guilty. Everton have said they are guilty. That's a fundamental different thing. For the Notts Forest one, they've obviously spent a lot of money. They spent a lot of money when they got promoted. So, again, there's 2 ways you can look at this. They spent a lot of money. They survived. They stayed in the Premier League. We should be congratulating them and saying, well done. You spent the money. Congratulations. You had ambition. You're now in the Premier League. You stayed in the Premier League. You didn't just get relegated. Other people will say, well, they recklessly spent, and now they put the club at danger of going bust or whatever. Well, what you can't have your cake and eat it, Terry. You can only have it one way or the other. Are we saying that clubs are going to come up and spend money to stay in the division, but then they put the clubs at risk of going business? Or are we just accepting that clubs like now, Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton have all just been promoted and are just going to get relegated? What do we want here? You can't have it both ways for me.
No, I don't think you can have it both ways on a polarized scale. I think that you have to be... I've had many of these conversations on Straight Facts when people say Luton haven't been ambitious enough and spent enough, or Brighton haven't spent enough since they've been promoted. I think there's a way in which to do it, because if you overcommit and you overspend, there are FFP, or in the Premier League's case, financial sustainability and profit laws that are in place that are there to essentially protect you. If you look at Everton's situation as an example, so much of their problems is the debt that the owner has put upon the club. They've broken these regulations. The fear would be if there was no regulation, how much more debt, how many more holes there would be, and what financial situation they would be in. I think that some of these owners are that reckless that, and especially as they're not always spending their own money, they're borrowing it from banks or they're spending the club's money, they could overspend even more. It's a limited company. That'll get written off. They'll walk away and they'll have it structured in a way, these millionaires and billionaires, where their personal finances never impacted. And I think that if these checks and balances weren't in place, we'd have seen many more clubs go down the Swanee in the same way we're seeing with Reading at the moment, who have a billionaire that owns them, but yet their players are not being paid. You know, the average club in the Championship loses £15 million per season. My brother's a Leyton Orient fan. It's why their fans don't want to get promoted. Their owners can just about afford to pay the £3 million a year loss they make now in League One. If they got promoted this year with their current earnings and income, there's a high chance of getting promoted to the Championship would bankrupt Leyton Orient and put them out of business forever, even with increased revenues. So there has to be a happy medium here, but I think you're spot on. The lack of education from the mainstream media is crazy. We've done a lot of videos about City's situation, and we've presented, when I say evidence, I mean in the sense of what the media have said or what the leaked emails have said. But in every single video, if people actually take the time to watch them, we have stated that this is an accusation, that this is going to take time, that City should defend themselves. There's a chance they could be innocent. Whenever I watch it on TV, I see the likes of Jamie Carragher, and I'm paraphrasing here as opposed to quoting him directly, but it's almost along the lines of, I can't understand why why Everton have lost points. What about Man City? I think, how are you misleading the millions of people watching Sky Sports, comparing these two situations when they're nowhere near the same as one another? And I agree. And I don't necessarily think City should be dragged into this equation because Everton have mismanaged their accounts and because Nottingham Forest are overspent. I think that's really unfair on Manchester City in many ways. And it's unfair on the general football fan. Listen, you've got to remember, the mainstream media still tells people that net spend is a real thing. It isn't. It never has been. Clubs have never used it once, ever. It's not how it operates. They don't do net spend is not real. The only real net spend there is did you make a profit or not as a business? You know, they spend a percentage of their turnover on transfers. So, you know, a great example being Mbappe is going to go to Real Madrid in the summer for nothing. Net spend will say he costs nothing, but they've got to pay £120 million signing on fee. That still comes out the club's budget, but Sky Sports will say the net spend is low, which is just a lie. They lie about the financial element of football all the time, and I get you, it's frustrating. Dan, like we were talking before the show, like, what's your take on this whole situation with FFP, the checks and balances, and how it's impacting clubs?
I think it's all bollocks, Tel, if I'm honest. And I'd rather they just scrap it and get rid of it all. And I'll tell you why. This FFP thing, profit sustainability thing, for me, hasn't done damage to teams like City, potentially Chelsea, Arsenal, United, our three clubs, and Chelsea. Let's go with it. We've spent unbelievable amounts of money in the last decade, right? All of our clubs have. But actually, it's not damaged us because now nobody can catch up because they can't spend money to catch us up because of this profit and sustainability thing. So Newcastle have got billionaire owners, but because these new rules have been implemented, they can now take a slower approach to trying to catch Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, etc. up in terms of their spend, when really they've got the money sitting there. But now all these rules have been they've been brought in. They should be able to, if they want, as a billionaire. If I bought a club and I'm a billionaire and I've got £7 billion that I want to spend on Arsenal and I've got another £7 billion I want to spend on the squad, I should be able to do it. It's my money, right? But they're not allowing that to happen now because these rules have been implemented. And now what we're seeing, not only is it not damaging the other clubs, it's actually damaging Everton and Forest all of a sudden. So people are laughing and pointing fingers at Chelsea and City. Let's see what happens with them. Everton and Forest have got to try and stay in this league, not worry about competing at the top of it. They've got to try and stay in it now. And that could be hard if they get even more points deducted. I just think scrap the whole thing. It's a mess. No one has a clue what's going on. This January transfer window is dead because of it. There's actually nothing happening anywhere. It's not just, oh, my club ain't doing nothing. No clubs are. What is there actually happening in this January transfer window that we're really excited about seeing? Who are Man United go and buy? Oh, they need a striker. So do Arsenal. Everyone needs a striker. No one's getting Tony this window. No one's getting Osimhen. No one's going to go and put in a bid for Evan Ferguson, a young lad to go and get loads of money. No one's got any money for it. because of this profit and sustainability thing that's come in. So for me, I just think it's killed the window. I think it's a crazy thing. I think Manchester City will be nervous. I know LB's relaxed and Manchester City fans say they don't care. Send us to League Two if you want. We don't care. I'll be nervous, to be fair, because if I'm honest with you, Tel, if you're a police officer and 115 Tesco's have told you that someone's been nicking wine, someone's probably been nicking wine, right? So I think personally, Man City are going to find themselves in the mud at some stage. I don't know when it's going to be. But at the moment, they're innocent until proven guilty. But it looks like it's going to go wrong for them at some stage. Chelsea, likewise, I think have come out and said similarly that there's going to be some problems with them. It's all an absolute mess at the moment. And for me, it's been brought in way too late because it's like saying everyone have a 10-year head start and now we'll bring in financial fair play. Well, everyone's already got their squad. Man City have built their squad. So now people have got to try and catch up with Man City, but they're not allowed to because of this profit and sustainability. So it's coming too late. It's bollocks, man.
That's the problem that I have with it as well, and people don't get that. People don't get this because when I say get rid of FFP, people say, "Oh, profit and sustainability." They say, "Of course you'd say that. You're a City fan." No, you don't understand. Dan's on the money. As a City fan, I've got my squad. We've got the best squad in the Premier League. From a City point of view, I'm like, tighten the regulations up even more. Stop Liverpool from spending. Stop Arsenal from spending. Stop them from closing the gap. I'm chill. My team just won the treble. We won 4 out of the last 5 Premier Leagues. I think we're going to win it again this year. You know, the fact that Newcastle can't spend money with the owners that they have. I mean, why? What does any of you guys think that's right? Why can't they spend money?
I think I disagree with you, but I think it is right to a degree. And what I mean by that is there's 2 comments that have come in that I want to highlight. First one says FFP was created to stop United, Arsenal, and Liverpool from being challenged. Well, when it first came in, Liverpool weren't challenging for anything. So again, that's not strictly true, but I get your point. Then Carl says, but what if you die, as in the owner, your family doesn't want to take on the responsibility and you leave a club in literally billions of pounds of debt? That's also a great point. And I think that FFP or profit and sustainability has a place in the game because we must protect football clubs. I think the reason we haven't seen the mass extinction of multiple clubs is because it's been in place and it has limited what people can and can't do. But for instance, say an owner wants to come in and spend £3 billion on the club, as long as they put that money, as long as, for instance, the wage bill is covered and the debts are covered with money in some type of bond. So this happened in the corporate world I worked in. Say, for instance, you make handbags, LB, and I'm using this example because I had a customer that made handbags, and Harrods wants to buy 50,000 units of them, and it's a £3 million deal. Sometimes what Harrods make that manufacturer do is put a certain amount of money into a bond, and that money represents what they think the profits would be in those bags. The reason they do it is because, say, the manufacturers fail to deliver the order numbers, Harrods have not ordered other bags that will then make them their profit. So they have to put a bond together. That way, everybody's kind of protected. If the bags are all made, Harrods pay for them, the manufacturer gets their money. If the manufacturer goes bust for whatever reason, Harrods are not left out of pocket because that money sits in a bond somewhere within a bank. You could do that quite easily. So if City want to have a £500 million a year wage bill that's going to last 5 years, you add up how much it's going to cost and you go, right, you can do this, but you have to put into a bond somewhere £2.5 billion. That way, if something happens to the sheikh, the country, his money, whatever, Man City have got the money in a bond to pay off those contracts and slowly wind down how much they're spending to a level that they can afford. So I think don't get rid of it completely, because you will end up destroying a number of football clubs, because Leyton Orient, ironically, have been through it. You look at if you actually look into Everton's finances right now, they're in big trouble. Reading are about to go out of business. So there needs to be checks and balances. But at the same time, if you've got an owner that wants to spend and an owner that doesn't, it's on the fans of the club, of the owner that isn't spending, to do something to force them out. But I just don't think you could allow it to be willy-nilly spending, because imagine how you'd feel, LB, if you guys had £3 billion of debt right now, because how it's structured, the sheikh pulls away, and then your club doesn't exist ever again. None of those trophies in the last decade would make up for your club no longer existing.
And I agree with you, Terry. And I've personally come up with that sort of solution that you've just raised as well. And I keep saying this because I don't think this is clear. You've got to decide what you're actually trying to do here. Are you trying to stop clubs from going out of business and trying to prevent stuff from happening, like Terry just mentioned, in the sense that, you know, a rich guy comes in or a rich woman comes in, puts a lot of money in, and then goes, I can't be asked anymore, or sanctions, whatever. A little bit like what happened to our previous owner, Thaksin Shinawatra, who was, I think, from Thailand, millionaire, whatever. Guy got sanctioned, froze all his money. We was apparently weeks away from going bust. Gary Cook, who was the CEO of Manchester City at the time, who basically put the plan together to sell to the Sheikh, he said we were weeks away from going bust for that exact thing that Terry just mentioned. So if you're actually not about preventing sort of competitiveness and you're actually just trying to prevent clubs going bust, and if that's what you're trying to do, fair play, I have complete agreement in that, then do exactly what Terry says. If the Saudis want to come in and say, well, we want to spend £1 billion in the next 5 years on transfers and make this team mint. And by the way, once you get a mint team, you then don't spend as much money every single transfer window because you just have to top it up. Just say to him, right, okay, no problem. If you want to spend £1 billion in the next 5 years, no problem. But you got to put that amount, or maybe even more, in an account somewhere. So if you decide that you're going away, or UK decides to sanction you, just like we did with the Russians, Newcastle fans have still got a football club. Why is that? That's completely reasonable.
And then you see how serious they are. Twisted.